Welcome to your 10th grade English course options, everyone. We're going to tell you a little bit about World Lit and World Studies.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nick Bonacorsi, and I teach the history component of world studies, which is one of the things we'll be talking about later on today.
Hi, I'm Sarah Borelli, and I teach the world literature side of this class, or the world literature.
I'm Mr. Shimazaki, and I teach the world literature.
And I am Mrs. Tanabe, and I teach world literature also.
So you will have two options as 10th graders. The first option will be just the world lit class, which is no longer connected to the history class, and the world studies class is your second option to take for 10th grade. So what are our goals for you for world literature? One, to become better writers, speakers, listeners, readers, critical thinkers, to understand through literature what has been happening in the world and connect to what is happening today, and to prepare you for all the 11th grade options, which are American Lit Honors, or American Studies. There are two overall arching themes for the course. The first overall arching idea is, what does the world want us to know? And we're going to break that up into two themes for one per semester. For the fall, we're going to look at what is the human condition. And for the spring, what is the hope for humanity? We would like becoming global citizens in the 21st century requires us to know about our world and our place in the world. So we'd like to expand on our ideas and literature through these two themes, and hopefully you guys will understand what it takes to become global citizens.
In the fall, as Ms. Borelli said, we're going to be taking a look at the human condition. So some of the things that we'll be reading could include short stories, poetry, Lord of the Flies by William Golding, which is about a group of boys that get marooned on an island and have to figure out their way, and Nectar in a Sieve by Kamala Markandeya, which is about a peasant woman in India at the turn of industrialization. In the spring, we will be looking at The Hope for Humanity, and we could be reading All Quiet on the Western Front by Eric Remarque, Animal Farm by George Orwell, which is about animals overthrowing their master on a farm, Night by Elie Wiesel, dealing with the Holocaust and a first-person memoir, nonfiction research, Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi, about a young woman during the Iranian Revolution who has to figure out what it means to still be her. Waiting for an Angel by Helon Habila is about a young man, a journalist, who has to figure out what happens during a Nigerian coup. And then The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, a young man who in the 90s comes to terms with what he did in the 70s to his best friend.
And I'll be talking about the workload in World Lit, homework, 20 to 30 pages of reading each night, which depending on each student, it could be also thought of as a number of minutes, perhaps for each school night as well. Classwork will have a variety, discussions, small group work, but then also individual work, so both group and individual. There will be essays in class and take home, presentations, and again, both individual and collaborative projects. The advantages of World Lit in comparison to your choice, right, between studies and lit. World Lit would have the more traditional 28 to 30 students per teacher. And if we're in the classroom, it'd be more of a traditional setup in terms of the desks. And there'll be a focus just on the literature and a literature-based approach in seeing the world. And then this year, we did change it up a little bit. Now we're more of a world literature with a focus on literature, as opposed to a core where you'd have the same teacher for both history and lit. Now we have, you have separate completely. And so we've decided to make this change. I think for us, it does allow us to really focus on the literature and the skills as well. It'll also allow us to have more of a say to incorporate authors of color, women, and current issues, and that focus on the authors also to make it with current issues relevant to today.
Okay, and I'm going to talk about world studies. And just to kind of start the conversation, I want to be clear that there are a lot of similarities from the two different courses or two different options in terms of content and skill. So those things should be fairly in line with each other, regardless if you pick World Lit / History or World Studies. And there are some differences more in delivery and in the environment in which the content will be delivered. But you'll have group work in both. You'll have homework in both. So those expectations should be fairly similar. So what is different about World Studies is that it is one classroom with both classes put together with two separate teachers. And we're working on more of a thematic-based approach to learning, as opposed to perhaps your world history class, which is going to operate more from a linear timeline perspective. And so regardless of which direction you choose to go as a sophomore, both paths will prepare you for your 11th grade options, whether it be AP, honors, or regular courses. This gives you a little bit of an overview of what the year will look like in a World Studies classroom, with some possible literary texts in the left-hand column. 1984 is a book that we added for this year. And you have 2 graphic novels in there as well, with Persepolis and Mouse. And you'll see some overlap as well with the world literature slides from before, as there are some similarities across texts. And again, so where we really differ from the world history classroom is the thematic approach to learning. So you don't see traditional kind of history units there in the right-hand column. We are organized by themes. And so units 1, 2, and 3, so Human Nature Part 1, Human Nature Part 2, and Social Change will make up the first semester, and then the Changing World, Nationalism, and War, Hate, and Genocide will close out the second semester. Unit 2, Response to Injustice, is our new unit that we added this year to help bridge the gap between current events and history, where we're looking at the modern protest movement as well. Advantages to World Studies, or even just kind of what World Studies looks like. So I mentioned before, you're going to have roughly 60-ish kids in one classroom with 2 teachers. So you might have me, the history teacher, and currently my lit partner is Miss Choate. And so we're together in the same room teaching together a large group. The students are arranged in groups at all times. So right now they're seated together with their group from start to finish, and it does span 2 classes because it is 2 separate courses sort of pushed together. So it would span 2 separate periods is what I mean by that. We do operate with 1 grade book, which again is another difference, right? So your lit grades and your history grades in theory are all being put into the same grade book, and then that grade mirrors itself, and you have 2 separate grades at the end of each semester. And our emphasis, it gives us a little bit more of an opportunity to work more in the project-based learning modality, and that's where we are trying to organize the course.
All right, some things you definitely want to think about when you're trying to pick which course to take is that group work and individual work will occur in both courses. So studies is neither easy nor hard, and lit is neither easy nor hard. They are the same content and skills with a different arrangement. The second thing you need to keep in mind is that the size of the course matters. In studies, as Mr. Bonacorsi said, there are 55 to 65 students with 2 teachers at round tables. And as Mr. Shimazaki said, in World Lit, there are 28 to 30 kids with 1 teacher in a traditional setting. It's not a wise choice if you are distracted easily, or if you like to work in smaller groups, to choose World Studies. The third thing to remember is you should be careful with the correct course selection numbers. So you should pick 1174 for studies and 1170 for lit. If you have any other questions or concerns or thoughts, please feel free to bring them to us and we'd be happy to answer them. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.